Hello again, students. We continue with 14.1 competitive factor markets. And this time we're going to look at the market supply of inputs. Now, all supply tend to be upward sloping because of opportunity cost of increasing quantity of quantity supplied means that you have to offer a higher price for a larger quantity supplied. So the positive relationship means that you have an upward sloping supply curve. All right, but the input market has a special case. Among all inputs, labor demonstrates a different behavior. That when you pay more, the higher wage, labor tends to offer less labor hours, right? So this phenomenon is called the backward bending supply of labor. Now, to understand this, we use the indifference curve analysis. Okay, going to show everything. Yeah, okay, so let's start with wage equals to 10, and you are looking at two types of use of labor hours. One is to earn income, by working, and the other is to use your hours for leisure. That means you don't work, you rest, or you do things that makes you happy but does not earn you any income. So if you don't work at all, right, if you don't work at all, you spend 24 hours not working, so you have zero income. But if you spend all the 24 hours working, then the maximum income you will get is 240, because 24 hours times 10. You understand this? All right. So with this budget line, your equilibrium is at A, because the idea for the concept of equilibrium is that it's found at the tangent where the indifference curve is tangent to the budget line, correct? Okay, so with A, you are working 8 hours, because 16 hours is for leisure. You can sleep, you can do anything you want, but you only work 8 hours. Okay, so work. When you say you have leisure 16, 24 minus 16 is 8. All right. Now let's say wage increase to 30. Wage increase to 30. And whereby the maximum, if you spend 24 hours working, you will get R, hypothetically. But if there is a, so let's look at substitution effect. When income, when price of labor hours increase to 30, then you now have a new budget line, right? And in that new budget line, if you maintain on the same indifference curve, the new budget line and the old indifference curve means that you will work 12 hours, 12 hours leisure and 12 hours work. So that is point C. So we call this substitution effect. You are still on the same indifference curve, you're just substituting between leisure and work. But if you choose to not follow that new budget line and adopt a different budget line, which is the dotted budget line, and therefore you find the tangent to a higher indifference curve, which is a dotted indifference curve, then your equilibrium will be at B. Okay, how does this happen? It's because you take that 24 and that 30, 24 hours, and so this is actually your new budget line. This is the new budget line with the higher income that you earn. Okay, so we call this income effect. From C to A is actually income effect, because you are in reality earning a higher income. So this is where you should be. And at B, you are working, you are not working 19 hours, but you are working only 5 hours. Yeah, 24 minus 19. But you are earning $30 per hour, so your income is 150. This one, if you work 8 hours, your income is 80. Alright, so it makes sense why labor has this tendency to supply less when wages are increasing, because we're talking about the income effect being much stronger than the substitution effect. When you reach a target income, when you feel comfortable, you decide not to work as much anymore. Okay, you reach a certain comfortable level of income, so you don't need to increase more and more and more. So more is not always better for you. Okay, so do read the examples, they are very interesting. Okay, the labor market equilibrium in a competitive factor market. Next section here, yeah. If the model is a PC model for both the output market and the factor market, so this is what you'll get, yeah, number of workers. This is a factor market, number of workers, because here we're talking about labor. So the wage rate in a competitive market, the wage rate is WC. Okay, but if the model is the producer has monopoly power in the competitive market, but the producer has a monopoly power, okay, so the firm that is buying has a monopoly power, then you will see that MP times P, this MRP here is not the same as the MR times P. This one is MR times MP, because the formula of MRP is MR times MP. Okay, you will get this that the MR, since MR is less than P, so MP times MP, MR times MP is less than P times MP. Okay, I repeat, MR times MP is less than P times MP. Right, but the equilibrium is found similar. Always we find equilibrium at MRP, okay, marginal revenue, and the supply curve just now, which is the S. So this is the equilibrium point. But the marginal value of the worker is VM. Wage paid is WM, because this is your supply and demand. So the wage equilibrium is here. Okay, but in terms of the value or marginal value of a worker is at VM at this point, which is the P equals to ML point. Okay, so this brings us to the next concept, which is economic rent. Economic rent is the difference between the payments made to a factor and the minimum amount that must be spent to obtain the use of that factor. If you look at the graph, I'll show you. Okay, in a competitive factor market, you will find that equilibrium and you will charge this price. Correct? So this is the competitive factor market where you charge the price. Just like the previous graph that we've used just now. This one. Okay. But at the same time, we know that the supply curve of labor shows all the willingness, all the quantity, and that labor is willing to supply and able to supply. at different prices. At this price, they are willing to supply this quantity. At this price, they are willing to supply this quantity. Correct? Yeah. But because of because you are paid with only one price, the same price, so this area, green area here, represents the excess of wages paid above the minimum. Yeah, excess of wages paid above the minimum amount needed to hire the workers. The minimum amount needed to hire the workers was the amount that they are willing to get hired already. Yeah, but you paid them all W. So the balance here, or the difference here, is called economic rent. Now, what happens if your supply curve is a straight line like this? If you have a supply curve that is SL, remember the case of fabric produced by a perfectly competitive factor market? Yeah. So if supply curve is perfectly elastic, then there is no economic rent at all to be derived. Yeah, no economic rent at all to be enjoyed, because you are paid at that price and this is the price taker.